What if I told you that peace can be just as dangerous as war, not because peace is wrong, but because pretend peace gives us the illusion that everything is okay when it's not? The ceasefire between Iran and Israel, hailed as a breakthrough, a miracle, a sign of hope, may be none of those things. It might be strategy, it might be survival, it might be a pause before the next storm. But here's the question that matters more than the politics, more than the headlines, more than the world stage. What kind of ceasefire are you living in? Because while nations sign treaties and press conferences declare victory, most of us live day to day under unspoken truces, with fear, with doubt, with pain. We've called it peace. We've convinced ourselves we're fine. But deep down we know better. We're not thriving. We're just surviving. We're not moving forward. We've simply agreed to stop fighting for a while. And just like world powers do, we dress it up. We say we're taking a break. We say we're waiting for the right time. We say, it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow. But what if that ceasefire inside you isn't peace? What if it's procrastination? What if it's a silent surrender? Core the metaphor of real peace via staged agreement. Look at history. The most dangerous moments are often hidden behind quiet ones. Ceasefires give us time, but they also give the enemy time, time to regroup, time to strategize, time to prepare for the next move. The question isn't whether the Iran Israel ceasefire is real. The question is, what are they doing with this silence? Are they preparing to build or to break? Are they laying down arms or sharpening new ones behind the curtain? Ask yourself the same. You've called a ceasefire in your own life. Maybe you stopped pursuing your purpose because things got tough. Maybe you stopped pushing your limits because comfort crept in. Maybe you've been living in a staged agreement with mediocrity. It looks peaceful, but it's killing your potential silently. Real peace, true peace, is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of purpose in the middle of it. It's building bridges, not just avoiding bombs. It's choosing growth when retreat is easier. And it's fighting for your future, not just avoiding pain. When the world stops shooting, leaders start building. When fear gets quiet, the brave get louder. When excuses go silent, purpose must speak. Silence has a way of fooling us. It wraps itself in comfort, disguising inaction as calm, and masks stagnation as stability. In life, we often crave peace, but what we actually settle for is silence. The absence of conflict does not mean the presence of progress. Just like in a global ceasefire, where the guns stop firing but the tension simmers beneath the surface, in our own lives, the quiet we experience may not be peace. It may be paralysis. It may be the stillness that settles in when we stop striving, when we give up the fight not because we've won, but because we're tired of losing. And yet, we tell ourselves everything is okay. But deep down, we know we're lying to ourselves. We've all been there, moments when we stop pushing, stop chasing, stop building, because we think we've earned rest, or because we're afraid of what comes next. And the silence that follows feels safe. It feels like relief. But slowly it becomes a prison. The dangerous part is not that things have quieted down. The dangerous part is that we've convinced ourselves we no longer need to grow. And growth only happens in tension. Comfort kills ambition. Comfort tells you that you've done enough, that you've come far enough, that the fire burning inside you can now be turned down to a flicker. But the truth is, silence in the face of potential is betrayal. It is the silent agreement between your fear and your potential to keep things exactly as they are. No war, but no victory either. Think about the moments in life when things seemed calm. No stress, no deadlines, no challenges. And ask yourself, were you truly at peace, or were you just on pause? There's a kind of silence that comes after a great effort, where rest is deserved, healing is necessary, and reflection is powerful. But there's another kind of silence, the kind that sneaks in after defeat, after quitting, after convincing yourself to stop caring. It looks the same on the outside, but inside it's different. One is rest, the other is resignation, and the problem is, we rarely know the difference until it's too late. The world praises peace, but not all peace is earned. Some peace is negotiated at the cost of progress. Some peace is the byproduct of fear. You stop arguing, not because you found resolution, but because you stopped believing your voice mattered. You stop pushing, not because you reached your limit, but because you stopped believing more was possible. And this happens not just in international politics, but in relationships, careers, dreams, and goals. You settle into silence and you tell yourself the war is over, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just waiting. Maybe the silence is simply the space between the battles, and in that space, you either build or you break. You either plan your next move or you allow the quiet to become your new normal. We all carry within us a deep reservoir of potential, untapped, unexplored, and often ignored. And yet, despite knowing it's there, we find ways to delay it, to bury it under convenience, distraction, or fear. Instead of confronting the discomfort of growth, we negotiate with it. We strike silent deals with ourselves, deciding that tomorrow we'll try harder, that next week we'll finally commit, that once circumstances change, we'll take the leap. These self-negotiated truces are the ceasefires we declare with our own potential. It's not that we've given up, it's that we've paused the fight. We've laid down the weapons of ambition, silenced the voice of hunger, and convinced ourselves that waiting is wisdom. But potential doesn't bloom in stillness. It fades. When you stop showing up for your goals, when you stop holding yourself accountable, you don't eliminate the dream. You just delay it indefinitely. You enter into a temporary agreement with comfort. And while that agreement may feel like peace, it's not. It's stagnation wearing a disguise. The danger lies in how convincing it can be. You tell yourself you're being patient, when in reality, you're being passive. You tell yourself you're planning, but what you're really doing is postponing. And all the while, your potential, your capacity to evolve, to lead, to create, sits quietly in the background, waiting for you to return. This internal ceasefire becomes especially seductive when life throws challenges your way. After a setback, it feels reasonable to take a break. After disappointment, it feels justified to retreat. You don't quit. You just stop pushing. You don't surrender your dreams. You just stop waking up early. Stop staying disciplined. Stop speaking up. Stop doing the things that once made you sharp. You lose your edge, but you tell yourself it's for your own good. What you're really doing is slowly lowering the bar of your own expectations, and then something worse happens. That temporary ceasefire becomes a lifestyle. You forget how to fight. You forget what hunger feels like. You stop imagining what more looks like. You trade your boldness for routine, your grit for comfort, your courage for complacency, and because no alarms are going off, because no immediate crisis is forcing your hand, you convince yourself everything is fine. But deep down, you feel the ache. You feel the gap between who you are and who you know you could be. That quiet ache is your potential screaming through the silence you've created. The problem isn't lack of talent. It's lack of pursuit. The issue isn't that your goals are unreachable. It's that you've stopped reaching. You've built a ceasefire with the very fire inside you, and every day you honor that truce, you teach yourself to expect less. Less effort, less excitement, less risk, less growth. You dull the edge of your ambition with every excuse, every delay, every compromise. The ceasefire seems harmless, but it's costing you the very thing that made you dream in the first place. Fear has a voice, and it rarely screams. It whispers, it waits. It creeps in during the quiet moments and suggests, ever so gently, that maybe now isn't the right time, that maybe you're not ready, that maybe you'll fail again, just like before. It doesn't confront you outright. It distracts you. It pacifies you. It gives you reasons to stay where you are and avoid discomfort at all costs. And for many people, that voice becomes louder than anything else. Louder than their ambition, louder than their vision, louder than their purpose. It takes control not by force, but by subtle suggestion. But purpose must be louder than fear. It must cut through the noise. It must rise up when fear tries to settle in, because purpose is not passive. Purpose demands movement. It doesn't wait for the perfect time or flawless conditions. It doesn't consult fear before it acts. Purpose is conviction, and conviction is not convenient. It requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires doing things when you don't feel like doing them. But most of all, it requires that you listen to the deeper call inside you. Not the one that's worried, hesitant, or uncertain, but the one that knows why you started, why it matters, and why you can't stop now. Fear will always have something to say. It will always bring up the past. It will always point to your flaws, your failures, your scars. But purpose is rooted in the future. Purpose says, what you've been through doesn't define you. It prepares you. Purpose knows that fear is a part of the process, but it refuses to let it lead. It acknowledges the risks, but moves anyway. And in a world that constantly promotes comfort and convenience, listening to your purpose is a revolutionary act. Most people don't fail because they lack skill. They fail because they let fear dictate the terms of their lives. They let fear build the walls and set the limits. But purpose doesn't recognize walls. Purpose doesn't accept ceilings. It challenges them. It confronts fear directly and demands action, even when the path isn't clear, because clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. You don't find your way forward by standing still. You find it by stepping out, by speaking up, by showing up even when the outcome is uncertain. When you align with your purpose, something shifts. You stop looking for permission. You stop needing approval. You stop waiting for the perfect plan. You realize that you were never meant to be led by fear in the first place. You were meant to lead with purpose. And every time you choose purpose over panic, mission over mood, commitment over comfort, you get stronger. Not because fear disappears, but because it loses its grip on you. It becomes background noise. The louder your purpose becomes, the less room fear has to speak. And the more you act in alignment with that purpose, the more courage you build. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the volume of purpose turned up so loud that fear can no longer be heard. Peace is not a moment. It's not a handshake, a pause, or a headline that says ceasefire agreed. Real peace is not a single event. It's the outcome of a relentless process, one that demands effort, intention, and the courage to face what's broken and choose to build anyway. In our personal lives, just like in global conflicts, peace doesn't happen because tension disappears. It happens because we choose to create something better in the middle of that tension. It's built, not declared. It's constructed daily through habits, values, actions, and decisions that reflect purpose over pressure. We're conditioned to look for peace as an arrival point. We think it will come once the chaos settles, once we finish the project, once we find success, once we fix the problem. But that kind of thinking delays growth. If you only believe in peace after the noise stops, you'll live your entire life waiting, because the noise never really stops. Life doesn't hand out perfectly timed moments of calm. There will always be challenges, distractions, critics, doubts, fears, and setbacks. Real peace is not found in the absence of these things. It's built in the middle of them. It's choosing to build something worthwhile when everything around you suggests you should give up or give in. Think about any structure, physical, emotional, or spiritual, that stands strong today. It wasn't built by accident. It wasn't thrown together in a moment of convenience. It took vision, tools, effort, resilience, and repetition. You don't build a peaceful life by making one big decision. You build it brick by brick, through how you show up, how you speak, how you respond under pressure, how you treat others, and how you treat yourself. It's in the consistency, in the discipline, in the persistence of choosing what matters most even when it's not easy. The danger of believing that peace can be declared is that it makes us passive. It makes us think peace is something external, something we're given by circumstances, rather than something we cultivate from the inside. And when we expect the world to hand us peace, we give away our power. But when we understand that peace is built from the ground up, by the decisions we make, the mindset we choose, the way we treat our time, our work, and our relationships, we reclaim that power. This kind of peace requires strength. It requires you to stay grounded in the storm, to stay focused when the world is trying to distract you, to stay disciplined when shortcuts tempt you. It's not loud or flashy, it's steady, it's intentional. It's the result of aligning your actions with your principles, even when it costs you. It's refusing to settle for the appearance of progress, and instead committing to real transformation, knowing that true peace is built over time, not found overnight. You don't stumble into it. You build toward it, one decision at a time, one moment at a time, even when no one else is watching. There's a lie that many of us have come to believe, and it's disguised in words that sound responsible, even wise. I'm waiting for the right time. It's not the perfect moment yet. When things settle down, I'll start. But time doesn't wait, neither does potential. And if you're always waiting for the ideal condition, you'll spend your whole life watching opportunities pass you by. The cycle of waiting is one of the most deceptive traps we fall into. It convinces us that delay is preparation when, in reality, delay is often just fear with a mask on. You wait because it feels safer than stepping into the unknown. You wait because it allows you to avoid discomfort without having to admit you're scared. You wait because as long as you're waiting, you don't have to risk failing. But growth never happens on the sidelines. It happens when you step in, even when your legs are shaking. The break, through your hoping for, won't come because the world finally aligns with your schedule. It will come because you decided to move despite the chaos. There will always be unfinished business, imperfect situations, uncertainty hanging in the air. Life doesn't slow down so you can catch up. You catch up by choosing to act. You don't prepare for the moment. You become the person who's ready through action. Because action itself is what sharpens you, it teaches you, it strengthens your capacity, it opens doors that hesitation keeps closed. Think about how many dreams, ideas, and goals have already died at the altar of not yet. How many times have you talked yourself out of starting, telling yourself that next week would be better, next month would be smoother, next year you'd finally feel ready, and yet those timelines keep moving, and you remain stuck in the same cycle. Every time you delay, you lose momentum. Every time you choose comfort over movement, you reinforce the belief that you're not capable yet, and soon the habit of hesitation becomes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who executes. You see yourself as someone who plans but never begins. And the truth is, the more you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Action builds confidence. Waiting builds doubt. Every small step you take forward reinforces your belief in your own ability. Even failure, when it comes through action, is a step ahead of waiting, because failure teaches. Waiting does nothing but waste. You gain clarity by doing, you gain vision by moving, you gain resilience by going through it, not by analyzing it from the edge. The cycle of waiting is seductive because it feels like a decision, but it's not. It's avoidance, and the longer you stay in that loop, the more disconnected you become from the fire inside you. You forget what urgency feels like. You lose the spark of pursuit. And eventually, You normalize hesitation as part of your character, rather than seeing it for what it is. A barrier built by fear, reinforced by excuses, and only broken by deliberate, consistent action. Before you can lead others, inspire change, or influence the world around you, you must first master the art of leading yourself. That is the foundation upon which every form of leadership is built, not title, not status, not recognition, but personal integrity and internal discipline. You cannot expect to guide anyone through chaos if you haven't yet faced and conquered your own. You cannot demand excellence from others while excusing mediocrity within yourself. The external world is often a mirror of the internal one. What you project starts with what you practice in private, when no one is watching, when applause is absent, and when results are still invisible. Leadership begins in the dark, in the unseen moments where decisions are made between right and easy. It's built in the habits no one claps for, in the sacrifices no one sees, and in the accountability you enforce upon yourself, not because someone told you to, but because you understand that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And when your personal standards rise, everything around you begins to shift. People don't follow perfection. They follow consistency. They follow clarity. They follow authenticity. And none of those things are possible unless you've first demanded them from yourself. Self-leadership is not about control, it's about alignment. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your time with your purpose, and your energy with your mission. It requires brutal honesty. It demands that you stop blaming circumstances, other people, or luck for your outcomes, and instead ask, what am I doing with what I've been given? You take ownership of your mindset, your habits, your growth. You stop outsourcing responsibility and start cultivating resilience. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait to be motivated. You create your own motivation through structure, systems, and belief in a bigger picture. When you lead yourself well, you become unshakable. Not because life stops being hard, but because you've built the muscles to carry its weight. You understand how to stay calm in chaos, how to stay focused in distraction, and how to stay driven even when the results haven't arrived yet. That kind of strength is not developed in ease. It's developed in fire. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, clarity over confusion, and purpose over popularity, you build more of that inner foundation. You become someone others look to not because you're perfect, but because you've done the inner work they've avoided. The truth is, people don't follow what you say. They follow who you are. They follow your example. They follow your energy. They follow how you respond when pressure mounts, when plans fail, when fear enters the room. And if you haven't led yourself through those moments first, you won't be equipped to lead anyone else through theirs. True leadership is not just a role. It's a responsibility, and that responsibility begins within. Before you speak into the lives of others, you must speak truth into your own. Before you carry the weight of others' trust, you must first learn to carry your own potential with discipline, direction, and courage.